Tell me, what do you think when you see this clip? That's right, this house is haunted. Well, I mean, this actually isn't a house per se, this is a saloon in one episode of Ghost Adventures. You know, the sort of show that goes to spooky places, stays there for a night, just to see if there are any ghosts around. Now, their description of this clip is actually kind of funny. Listen to this. Watch in the center of your screen as this linear anomaly seems to manifest itself in plain sight out of the table. And what's also interesting is that right behind it, there seems to be a second anomaly following its linear path. He goes on to say, what makes this even more compelling is that Noel, the saloon's owner, told us about an experience he had seeing a linear type anomaly manifest itself right before his eyes. Yeah, this looks like a piece of yarn. Or what's more likely, a linear type dust bunny. And you know that they added spooky sound effects and played this clip 15 times in 1 minute. That's not a lie, by the way, I counted. They played this 15 times in less than a minute. Now, I grew up watching these sorts of paranormal investigator shows, mostly because my mom watched them, but I was very, very intrigued, and I was so eager to see the definitive evidence of ghosts that they seemed to promise, to be able to conclusively and scientifically figure out the unknown. But that evidence never came. Now, the show that clip came from, or at least that particular episode, was very much like, this place is definitely haunted, but there were a lot of other shows that I've seen that are a bit more willing to say that the evidence was inconclusive as to whether or not these places were haunted. And I now know and understand that the point of these shows is to be spooky and all, but I was always more interested and intrigued by sciencey things and problem solving, and from that perspective, these shows leave a lot to be desired. Take, for instance, the REM-pod. Ghost Adventures describes it as being used to detect electromagnetic energy. Now, this is actually a pretty useless way to describe this device, but luckily for us, we can just look up the term REM-pod and find that this device creates its own electromagnetic field and then goes off if either that electromagnetic field is disrupted or if the temperature changes plus or minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Either way, automatically adjusting and readjusting its own baseline. So, knowing that, it's a lot less impressive when this thing went off a couple times during the show, because there are a number of things that could either cause the temperature to change, despite the fact that, you know, temperature changes normally over time anyway, but also that could cause electromagnetic interference. This could be caused by things such as fluorescent light bulbs, faulty wiring, cell phones, and radio transmitters and receivers, and that includes, well, radios, but also walkie-talkies and the spirit box that they have lying right next to the REM-pod.
So that is absolutely compelling and awesome.
And the spirit box, that has issues of its own. If you don't know what a spirit box is or does, basically it's a electronic device with a speaker that plays the sounds of both static and voices from beyond the grave. Okay, not quite. Like I said before, it is a radio receiver. It's essentially just a radio, but with a twist. It can't seem to decide what station it wants to play. All it does is it seeks through radio frequencies or radio stations and plays them just a fraction of a second at a time before moving on to the next one. So any voices that you hear are literally just music or talk shows playing over the radio, but cut short. That's really all it is. There's also the Geoport, or the Banshee box, or whatever else it's called. It has several different names, but I think Armored Skeptic put it best when he said that this thing takes the technical knowledge of a stoner to put together. Now, this thing is literally just a spirit box connected to guitar pedals, specifically a noise gate to cut out the static and reverb to make the voices sound super spooky.
Holy just said run.
I mean, I get it. It's super creepy when you're trying to talk to spirits and you hear a human voice speaking back to you. But the whole concept is flawed. Do spirits speak in FM radio waves? How? And why? And why can't they seem to pick one frequency or station and speak clearly through that one? Why do they have to speak cryptically between multiple different frequencies at one time? Or is it more likely that all you're hearing is normal voices that play on the radio all the time, and that your mind just interprets them based on the situation and context? To illustrate this, let's go to this clip of the same episode of Ghost Adventures. In this scene, they are outside of the women's restroom using a spirit box and asking a spirit what she is doing. And the spirit replies, that's right, she says pooping. And when they ask her again, she answers. Now listen closely, she actually says eating soap. Okay, so it looks like they have themselves a lost soul with a sense of humor. Except that's not the questions that they were asking, and that's also not the answers that they thought the spirit gave. See, at first, they were asking the spirit her name, and they thought that the reply was Ruby. In the second clip, they were asking if the killer was still in there, and they thought the reply was, I think so. But you see what I did there? All I had to do was change the context, and your mind interpreted it in a totally different way to fit that. This is mere suggestion and anticipation. See, the human mind is very sensitive to words, phrases, even, faces and the human outline, so much so that we sometimes recognize them when they aren't even there, a phenomenon called pareidolia. Another good example of this is EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena. The basic idea is that sometimes audio recorders can pick up voices that we can't, like this one. Yeah, that is supposed to be a ghost voice. Like, legit, that was from a show. This follows both the trend of the REM-pod, where we're purposefully using very sensitive equipment and acting like anything that shows up on them is significant, but also the trend of pareidolia, trying to see a pattern where there is none.
Do you smell that?
That's a big case of demonic presence in my book.
Yeah.
The putrid smells typically are associated with these negative, intelligent, non-human spirits.
Yeah, it's also associated with rats dying inside of the wall, or, when food or garbage has been left out too long. Potentially even a gas leak, or just a good breeze in a bad area. Or, demons or whatever. Yeah, this is another case where it's all open to interpretation and anticipation, although this time with a lot less plausible deniability. I mean, you're in an old rundown house and you smell a bad smell. This particular show is a lot more dramatic than other ones.
Oh, I just got dizzy.
Super dizzy.
I just got dizzy too.
Did you?
I just said that.
We both said it at the same time, yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is that my disappointment with paranormal investigation really comes down to the methods, first and foremost, because they are all pseudoscientific. None of this has been proven to be detecting anything ethereal, and there's a lot better explanations for all of this than ghosts or even demons. And yeah, I know these are reality TV shows, so they could either be stretching the truth or faking some of this outright. maybe that's the case, but there are other groups that are, like, legitimately trying to investigate the paranormal. Now, I don't think that these independent researchers trying to figure out what's going on in the afterlife or in the ethereal realm, I don't think that they are being malicious or purposefully deceiving anyone. I actually think they themselves are serious and are being ripped off by paying sometimes quite a lot of money for what is really basic electronics. Electronic devices that really don't do anything special. And I'm gonna be real with you, I don't believe in ghosts. And a lot of that comes from the way that we try to detect ghosts or spirits or what have you. And you'll find that the methods that we use are very pseudoscientific, and ghosts have never been properly detected. So I guess in my mind, there's not much difference between something that cannot ever possibly be detected and something that doesn't exist in the first place. So now that I've probably ruined your hope in the existence of ghosts or spirits, and potentially gave you an existential crisis by putting doubt in your belief in the afterlife, happy Halloween! This is my Halloween video. Happy Halloween! I'm a very festive person and fun at parties. So, thanks for watching.